Welcome back to Obsidian Dawn Studios. If you're new here, we cover topics involving all things game design and Unreal Engine related. And in this series, we have been showcasing assets for our farm sim game we have been constructing. In our last video, we covered a market and buy station system where the player can collect crops to sell for coins and use those coins to buy seeds to plant even more crops. In today's video, however, we will be covering a simpler asset, that being a level loading system. You can see these systems in practically every single game out there, and they come in all shapes and styles. For today's video, we will be making a portal style loader, where the player will interact with the asset to travel to a new location. We will be taking the asset from a simple field you can walk into, and turning it into this fantasy style wall. So without further ado, let's begin. Alright, so in order to create our level loading system, we're going to need to create a new blueprint. If we want to take it from this open field that you simply walk into and create something with a physical volume, we're going to need to add a few static meshes. So in whatever folder that you're putting your blueprints in, we're going to create a new one. So we're going to go ahead and create a blueprint class. We're going to create an actor. We're going to name this test portal. You can name it whatever you want, but I'm going to name mine Test Portal. And we're going to open it up. And within this field, we're going to add a basic outline for, since we want to do a fantasy style thing, let's do a portal door. So we're going to create a door frame, and then we're going to add a plane on top of it for the player to walk into. So let's create that door frame first. We're going to take our cube. We're just going to make it a simple door frame, 4 pieces. Let's do this. Very simple door frame. We can just make multiple copies of this. And this clearly doesn't need to be particularly good looking. We just need it to look at least like a door. So we're going to go ahead, call that good. We're going to add a plane to it. And we'll call this a portal, whatever we need. The way that the plane works, it can only be viewed from one side. If you go around behind it, it doesn't have any texture. So we'll always know which side the player can walk through because we'll be able to see it. Then put that dead center, and let's make this 2 by 3. Oh, right. There we go. And we'll just set that there. There we go. Now there is something else that we can do with this. We can actually change the material and we can make it look a little bit nicer for what we have. So I've actually got this fog card here. This is a bit of code material that I put together earlier. It creates this effect. A nice foggy material that you can see from a distance. You can customize this however you want, and I will link a video to creating this in the description down below. This is what we're going to be using to create our portal, but we also need to add a couple of interaction widgets and the interaction fields so that we can, well, interact with the door. So if we go up to the default scene route, we're going to want to add a widget component. Add the widget, come over to space, we're going to drop this down and turn it into screen. Then we're going to go to widget class and we'll do interact widget WBP. This is the same thing that we did for our crop mechanic in previous videos, so we already know how this is set up. We're going to also add a box collision. In this case, a box collision makes the most sense because it is a door. So we're going to make this be 100. We're going to make that be, let's do 100 again. No, let's make that be 50, actually, because this is how we're going to interact with the door. Let's make that be 150. Make it be about half the size. Or the full size, never mind. There we go. Bring that forwards. All right. And we're going to want to make sure the widget comes up as well. Oh, I made a mistake. Drag the box onto the widget to break its link. That's why the box was so big. We're going to want that to be about dead center. There we go. And we're going to want to take the box and make a duplicate of it. But we're going to want it to be about, I want to say, 150 units wide and about 100 units long. Because this is how we're going to be able to see the interact widget pop up. So the inside field is going to be for interacting with the door. The outside is going to be for turning the widget on and off. So now that we have those in place, we can add all of our code. First thing that we're going to want to do is add a couple of functions. We're going to want a function to get reference to the player. So we'll do get player. And we're also going to want to do a function for getting our widget. This one's a little bit more complicated. We're going to take an instance of our widget here. Get user widget object. Then we're going to cast to the widget that we are using. So we're going to do cast. Create the variable. There we go. Compile, save. In the event graph, we're going to drop both of these functions on event begin play. We're going to take our widget and we're going to set its visibility to nothing. This will hide the widget from the start. And we're also going to want to take our reference to the widget and set our text for it. I'm going to do something simple. I'm just going to do travel. And now we can add all the code we need for interacting with the door. So we're actually going to do this with a bit of a check. We're going to add a variable. It's going to be a Boolean, and we're going to do can interact. And you'll see what we do with this in just a second. The first thing that we're going to want to do, we're going to want to get our box, the inner box collision, and we're going to do on component begin overlap and end overlap. And we'll do the same thing with the outer box. Now we're going to do our check to make sure the player is the one entering the field. We're going to do a player ref equal equal. Hit control and drag this down. Put other actor, branch, and we'll do the same thing for the bottom. We can actually just take this bit of code here, drag this down, okay, there is something that I did forget to do. Since we are interacting with the door, we are going to want to add our interaction interface. So if we go to class settings, at the bottom here, we'll have implemented interfaces. Click add, type in player interface. This is the name of our interface. And now we have an interface on the other side. Double click to add the interact interface into our system. Now we can interact with this. And here is where we're going to be using that Boolean value that we did earlier. We're going to do can interact and set it. We're going to set it to true if the player is within the inner box. So if it's close enough to touch the door, they can interact with it. And if it's not, then they can't. Very simple little check here to make sure you can only activate the door if you are standing right next to it. And we're going to take this bit of code, copy it, bring it straight down, and we're going to reuse it for our secondary, the outer interface. We're going to connect everything. There we go. Make sure, did I do that right? Yes. Okay, and now we're going to take our widget and we're going to set visibility. So when the player enters the outer area of the portal, they'll be able to see the widget, and when they leave it, it'll go away. And they'll only be able to interact with the door if they're in the inner portal. Compile, save, open this, and we're going to set our portal here. Let's delete this volume. And here is our portal. Play from here. You can see we don't see the widget. If we walk up to it, it says travel. But we cannot travel because we're not inside the inner wall. We also don't have the level loader system yet. So let's go back into this, and we're going to do a very simple code for our event interact. On interact, we are going to do open level by name. You can do by object reference, but I find by name works just as well, so long as you get the name exactly right, which you can do pretty easily just by going to a map. We're going to use Tiana's farm and getting the actual name. Control C, Control V. There we go. Open level by name. And that's all we needed. Compile, save. Now if we walk up to it, just on the outskirts, and it teleports us. We can go back to the portal. There we go. There's one thing I didn't do, and that was do a branch to check whether the player can interact. There we go. And now when we go to activate the portal, it shouldn't activate as long as we are just on the outside of it. But as soon as we enter the inner range, teleport. There's a highly customizable portal that you can make. You can make this look however you want. You can make it take any shape you want. You can see over here, I have our very fancy forest style portal with our fog wall here. I like this particular one because it looks a little bit mystic. But you can make that look however you want. You can make it take on a fantasy form. You can make it take on a sci-fi form. Whatever you desire, you can make it look however you want. And that should be it. So in this video, we went over how to create a portal-style level loading system where the player walks up to the portal and has to interact with it in order to teleport to a new location. We went over references to the player and the widget and showed how to code the system with interaction fields. Finally, we showed a fantasy-style portal with unique fog material as an example of what you can make. So I hope you found this video interesting, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe for future updates on videos, and hit the notification bell to stay up to date on when we release new things. We'll see you the next time around, and remember, go out, make an impact.